Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How AI and RPA Convergent Takes Automation to the Next Level. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You've joined the presentation listening using your computer speaker system by default. If you prefer to join over the telephone, just select phone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the question pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session of today's presentation. Today's webinar is being recorded and you'll receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view the recording. I'd now like to introduce Julian Tan, Technology Alliance Program Manager for Blue Prism, Asia Pacific and Japan.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, afternoon as well. I'm Julian. Basically, I'm responsible for the Technology Alliance and Programs for APJ. And thank you for attending our webinar series today. And I'm very excited to have with us the AI expert team of Dr. Bimal and Shaku, who will be the presenters today for us in this event. So basically, they will be here to share with us the insights and the successes that they have currently. Next slide, please. Just to give a little background on how all this came about is that Blue Prism fits into the whole picture, basically in the sense that we have been a pioneer in the RPA space and was in fact responsible for coining the term RPA. We are an enterprise-grade solution that is well received and used worldwide today, where about 3 years ago, a new wave started on requirements on intelligent automation and many integrated solutions of RPA and AI. So that's when we planned and started our Technology Alliance Partners Program and the DX, which forms the basis of our current partners ecosystem. And this includes partners that provide various solutions like KYC or OCR and AI chatbots and etc. And now the industry is moving into fully automated processes that are driven by use cases with deeper requirements for intelligence and decision making. Next slide, please. So currently, we have around 80 tech partners globally in various solution space, and we are still growing together with the market demands. And as you can see, AI Expert is a highly valued and integrated partner of ours. And without further ado, I shall hand it over to the AI Expert team, Dr. Bimal, to share the further details. Over to you, Dr. Bimal.
Thank you, Julian, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are. It's an absolute pleasure to be on this webinar. A quick background to ourselves. We've been around as a leading edge sort of AI company for 2-3 years now. And we have been working with global blue chip clients again for that period of time, automating large parts of their compliance, risk and audit processes that still remain very manual, despite the fantastic solutions like the RPA solutions by Blue Prism, which helps to aggregate data, workflow, populate templates, etc. Where we come in is actually where they're still using humans to make sense of their data. So why is this? Look, I think this is estimated as $1.4 trillion will be spent by the end of this year on compliance, risk and audit by companies around the world, particularly in financial services. And the reason for this is large parts of that process is still, despite digitization, despite automation, very much led by a manual process by teams. And also in terms of understanding whether a company is compliant or not, companies cannot look through every single customer interaction or record. They take a sampling of less than 0.05% to understand whether they're risk-free or not. This all costs time, effort. There's a huge amount of risk associated with it. And also finally, the regulations is changing on a frequent basis, which means that you always have to update and try and keep up with what's happening on a national, regional or international level. Next slide, please. So we're a global based company with offices around the world, and we have been focusing very much on automating those parts of the process that still remain manual, very complex. So I'll give you an example. If it's KYC, there's lots of solutions out there which do the onboarding or identity recognition or verification, etc. But if you look at a lot of organizations, when they do the sort of next 2-3 steps, which is the enhanced due diligence, the advanced searches, understanding ultimate owner of a business, etc., etc., that's still driven by, if you like, an Excel spreadsheet with a checklist and humans actually accessing, trying to make sense of all this data that comes through wonderful kind of workflow and other aggregated data sources. That's where we come in. So we kind of create virtual compliance and risk officers for the company. Now, the reason that we're able to do that is, of course, our unique technology, which is a combination of 4 different AI technologies. That is an in-house, wholly owned technology that enables our engine and our system to understand documents as a human does. And what I mean by that is the nuances of what's being written, the hidden meaning, not keyword searches, not tagging, but actually what is it meaning? This allows the system to digest huge amounts of data in fractions of time and compare and contrast and analyze that data against internal controls, external regulations, just to make sure that the company is following the rules it set out in the way they might sell their products and services to their clients and whether they're compliant. One of the key things about our system is in terms of ROI, that because it absolutely replicates what's happening with the clients now, we don't ask the client to do anything different or change any of the technologies. What our clients are experiencing, that's within sort of 16 weeks of deployment, there's a reduction of 90%, up to 90% in terms of their current processes and current cost set. So this is a hugely powerful piece of solutions. It's not just a one off-the-shelf solution. It is ultimately sort of 1,000 different use cases from the base technology. Next slide, please. Don't worry, I'm not going to read through all this slide, but look, I want to point you to the central infographic, which I want to send context to what's happening. We're all going through the huge kind of change at the moment because of COVID-19, and the pandemic has had a huge, profound effect on how we work, how we operate, how we interact with one another. How do we maintain business continuity during this period? A lot of companies have struggled. So we know, for example, from our own experience, that we've had a significant uplift in people wanting our solutions, being interested in our solutions, because companies have struggled with remote working, they've struggled to continue with business continuity, particularly large financial institutions, which are typically, in one building with thousands of people and all their infrastructure in there, and have suddenly been asked to work disparately. They've all sort of suddenly looked at the whole area of AI and automation in a much more serious way. We've never experienced such demand for this from our clients as we are doing right now. So I think this is a unique opportunity to have that conversation with clients and partners to say, look, there are solutions out there that can help you, not only through, God forbid, another pandemic, but actually you can change fundamentally the way you're working, and you don't have to have a manual process. Next slide, please. So I want to stop that point. I want to understand, where are you in your automation journey? So with your personal experience, have you started it? Are you in the kind of, in terms of RPA, are you more progressed? Have you just started a proof of concept? Have you even started looking at it? Or have you been on a journey for some time and now looking to progress that journey? Or voting like mad, hopefully. Right, that's kind of interesting. So 60% of you have been on the RPA journey for over a year. That's really interesting, because you've started that journey, you've understood the benefits of automation. What we're trying to introduce here is the next level, which is the cognitive, making sense of that data. So that's quite interesting that you have that. Next slide, please. So quickly, in terms of, what is, people always say, what's the difference between RPA and AI? Look, RPA has been around for some time now. It has successfully automated a lot of the back-end operations and functions within an organization, whether it's data aggregation, whether it's data flow, collection, especially from legacy systems, putting it into a different system, implementing workflows. RPA has enabled companies to do that and to get rid of a whole lot of manual processes. But actually, that's all about sort of moving data around. That's all about putting data in a different format. Where AI comes in, and true AI, and the one thing I'll have to say to you is, if there are a lot of companies that say they do AI, the simplest test I would say is, if you look at a solution, ask yourself and ask the solution, can it be taught and does it continue to learn? In other words, does it have the ability to not make sense of the data and also replicate what is currently being done by humans in terms of thought, in terms of rationale, in terms of approach, and make sense of the data to produce the results that humans are doing? And does it continue to learn from its experience, continue to learn from a repeated process? So the fundamental difference in RPA, it's a non-learning system. It does a specific thing out of a box, while AI actually grows with you. So as things change, regulations change, or your internal processes or your internal approach to risk changes, it can learn with you. You think about our system, for example, as a new joiner to the business. It's a human. You can teach it, and in a short while, you will see the demo. You can teach it to whatever you want it to do. It's not an out of the box, does something specific. It mirrors and replicates what a client is doing. This is why it is a hugely transforming aspect. A lot of people don't actually believe that this can be done. So seeing is believing is something that we say all the time in the business. You have to see it. But also, it actually means that the huge, heavy lifting, heavy cost element of what companies are still doing in compliance, risk, and audit can be now automated. Next slide, please. So what is, look, you will shortly see, and I'll pass you over to Shaku, who will take you through a couple of use cases and demonstrations of what we can do. As I said to you, it's really important to remember that there's not an out-of-the-box solution. The uniqueness is the engine that we have, and upon that, there is a platform that can be trained into numerous use cases. This is typically not sold through IT, but is sold to the business users. And a simple reason for this is within 10 minutes, we want the business user, the actual business user who this will sit next to be able to load up their regulations, their controls, and analyze that against the customer data they have. The engine itself is able to digest information regardless of what template it is, whether it's PowerPoint, Word, PDF, it doesn't really matter. What it does is extract the data and make sense of it. And through a very quick but intense kind of training period over 2 or 3 weeks, the system will come up to 90% accuracy and replicate what the human's done. And it's taught by a subject matter expert, the business user. It is not taught, through a series of complex equations, algorithms in terms of what the end user needs to know. But simply, you demonstrate, tell the system what good looks like and what bad looks like. Now, at this moment in time, I want to hand you over to our head of Southeast Asia operations, Shaku, who's going to take you through a couple of use cases, which hopefully will bring things to life. Shaku, over to you.
Thanks, Bernard. I'll shortly take you through 2 demos of our products. So with all our products, and as Bimal has just mentioned, there are 3 easy steps to use our products. You basically configure the rules in the system, train the system, and then you run it in BAU. And all of these steps are designed to be business user friendly. So it puts the system directly in the hands of the business. We'll show you a video now of all of these steps. And the product that we're using here is our Comply Expert product, which automates the regulatory compliance checking process. As you'll see in the video, you can configure the system to check any set of regulatory standards, upload any documents that you like, whether PowerPoint, PDF, scans, or Word documents, and then the system will automate and perform the checks for you and generate a compliance report for you at the end. Should we play the first demo video, please?
The compliance assurance process can be completed in just 3 steps using Comply Expert. Load it, train it, and use it. Load it means load a compliance requirement as a set of rules. During the initial setup, after selecting the compliance area and regulatory standard, the user must manually enter the rules. Once the system is loaded with the compliance rules, the AI algorithm needs to be trained. Training data can be copied from the example documents on the right and pasted into the boxes provided for each rule. Once you've provided training data for all the rules you want to teach the system, you can press Train Models. You can train the software without using any example documents and by just typing the free text in the training data boxes. This is helpful when no example documents are available. After you have loaded the rules and trained the system to interpret them, you can perform compliance testing on single or multiple documents. Once these are uploaded, the system extracts the data and you can start the compliance testing. The system will then generate a report on the results. In the compliance report, you can see an overall compliance and non-compliance summary at the top of the page. When you scroll down, you can see relevant information found in the document for each rule, the reasoning behind the compliance or non-compliance decision, and the confidence level of the automated decision made by the system. Like a human being, the AI algorithms in Comply Expert continue to learn from the user feedback that helps to improve the decision accuracy. This enables the system to learn new scenarios for which it has not been trained on. The system learns from both positive and negative feedback provided by the user.
So as you've seen in that demo, and if we can go to the next slide, we can configure rules and logic in the system to mirror existing processes, business processes, and the system is agile enough to adapt to changing circumstances with a little bit of training. Now, by linking Blue Prism and AI Expert together, we can take that system and integrate quickly and easily with existing systems and workflows that are already established in an organization. So we use this in a couple of ways. We use the Blue Prism digital worker to gather information and data from various sources. So with existing organizations, they will have a landscape of systems, tools, databases, emails that they already use. We don't ask the user or the client to change any of that, but we connect to that quickly using Blue Prism's RPA. The RPA tool is able to extract the relevant information, feed it into the AI Expert system. Our system can classify the documents, read and analyze the data, and perform the compliance checks on these various documents. Then the Blue Prism digital worker extracts the outputs from our system and relays it back to the client in whatever form they're accustomed to. So the next demo that we have illustrates how Blue Prism and AI Expert's technology work together and the value that both solutions together will bring using another one of our products, our audit automation product. So a little bit of background on the audit automation product. The product has been developed for auditors and accountants to verify the completeness and accuracy of financial statements. The product performs various checks, including calculating arithmetical accuracy on tables in a financial statement, cross-referencing data in various sections of the document, and also can perform checks to ensure that the relevant disclosures for accounting standards, whether you use IFRS or US GAAP or SFRS in Singapore, are all appropriately disclosed in the document. So if we go on to the demo, I'll explain how Blue Prism and Audit Expert, the AI Expert audit tool, works together. So you'll be familiar here with the Blue Prism interface. The Blue Prism digital worker is launching the audit tool and logs into it. The first thing that it does is it would have to create a new client engagement profile in our system using information already stored in the auditor's audit file or in their CRM system. Once the client has been registered in the system, the digital worker then selects the appropriate regulatory standard you want to apply, whether it's IFRS or GAAP or any other, uploads the financial statement from the audit document repository, and then once that's uploaded, the audit expert system parses the document, so reads and extracts the tables and text from the document. And then we run the compliance check. So this is when the system runs, it can be tens, it can be hundreds, it can be sometimes even thousands of rules across the financial statement, including arithmetical checks and IFRS disclosure requirements. Once the systems run that, it produces a compliance report illustrating where the system is in compliance and non-compliance to the requirements. And then the digital worker, Blue Prism digital worker, extracts the compliance report and will funnel that back to the auditor in whatever channel that they require, in this case via email, but also uploading back into their document repository or any other shape or form that they would like. So using a combination of both technologies, we're able to deliver more end-to-end, seamless, touchless automation for clients. I'll hand you back now to Bimal.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you, Shaku. So at this moment, before I complete, I want to understand what roadblocks do you face or anticipate facing wherever you are currently in implementing AI, RPA, intelligent automation within your organization. What are the typical barriers you're coming across? Is it to do with budget? Is it to do with attitude and approach or understanding? Is it because they don't believe it can work, or is it something else? Here comes the results. Interesting. So a lot of it is around unproven business case. So again, going back to what we're saying about seeing is believing and having a backlog of case studies that have been done. You know, the reality is no client wants to be the first in terms of trying a leading edge technology, and that's quite understandable. And obviously the approach and attitudes towards it has been indifferent, but what I would like to point out is actually, I think as a result of the pandemic, and I'll be really interested to hear what you guys think in terms of your own experience, is certainly there's been a sea shift, a sea change in attitude towards actually considering automation in a serious way and not looking at it as something as nice to have, but actually, hey, we need to look at this for a variety of different reasons from the impact of the pandemic that's affected our organization. Next slide. So I wanted to first of all thank you for taking time to join us on this webinar. What we're trying to really sort of demonstrate in a very short space of time is a range of solutions and range of opportunities that are not sort of fictional. These have been delivered to clients across the globe. These are proven technology, proven solutions, and by AI Expert and Blue Prism coming together, we really truly believe we have an end-to-end solution that clients can now use that to automate everything from their sort of basic, if they're just starting their journey in terms of automation, in terms of moving to RPA, and now to real cognitive intelligent solutions that replicates what people are doing. And why are we doing this? It's because A, the technology is there, technology is advanced enough to do that. But what we're saying is, look, let us do the heavy lifting. While use your staff and use your really expensive subject matter experts to look in those things that require that human intellect and the human approach and, if you like, that decision making. but hugely 80% of your process is around data management, data understanding. And the fact is 80% of that data is unstructured data. That's hence requiring manual input. So our solutions can literally take something that is taking hours, weeks, or even months to do to literally minutes. And also we are reducing the risk on the part of our clients, because instead of looking at a fraction of their customer data in terms of understanding what they're doing, we can look up to 100% of their data. And imagine if you can look at 100%, it's simple mathematics, you're going to make better informed decisions. So it's a number of different things that are happening at the moment. It's about risk management, but also it's about cost reduction. We have seen an uplift in our business purely because our solutions can deliver real tangible cost improvements and cost reductions within 16 weeks, which particularly as a consequence of COVID-19, companies are really interested in doing. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. I just want to say something to thank the Blue Prism team as well as our team. But what I guess the call out to you guys is please come and speak to us. Come and see the solutions in more details, understand who we are working with and what problems we're solving. And actually, once you understood that we're really keen to work with you to understand what your pain points are, whether you're a potential partner or you're a client. What are those things that are sort of keeping you awake at night? But again, once again, thank you for coming in, and I think we've got a short time for Q&As as well. Over to you, Julian.
Hi, everyone. Right now, you please kindly input your questions on the panel, and we will address that shortly. Yes, we have a question here. So how old is this solution? What new business areas are emerging for automation other than audit and compliance?
Okay, so this solution has been around for about 2 years in terms of actually being used successfully. It's taken a huge amount of years to develop the technology, but in terms of actually it being deployed and into production and to enterprise over the last 2 years. When we talk about compliance and audit, look, whilst we are very much focusing on financial services because it's one of the most highly regulated industries, it can automate any administrative process, any manual process that exists within the areas of compliance, risk, and audit. So it's not just resulting in one. So at the moment, we have 12 different use cases, all distinct, all different. We're also now moving into different sectors, energy, sort of FMCG, food, manufacturing sectors, any sector that has a huge amount of regulations that they have to do it, our system can be applied to that. So it's not just a one-off kind of solution that does something specifically. It is designed for solving a particular use case, and that's the if you like, the uniqueness of the technology.
Sure. Next question is that what is the accuracy of this solution?
So the accuracy of the solution is in excess of 90%. And let me explain how this works when we work with a client. In the first sort of 8-12 weeks when this is being tested by the client, we ask them to test it alongside the manual process. So it's not us that are demonstrating ROI, it's the client themselves that are understanding ROI. And what I mean by the manual process is because the system replicates exactly what is happening with the client. So the user templates, the workflow, the risk approach, or whatever the logic that they're using currently, that's what the system replicates. So we ask the client to run it alongside it, using the data, the same uploads, the same connection, etc. But that process is managed by the client, not ourselves. We don't take the data away. It could be on premises, it could be on a couple of virtual laptops, it could be on the cloud, depending on what the preference for the client is. But by going through that process, the client immediately understands the time, cost, efforts that's saved by the system, because they're comparing apples with apples. It's not like a typical software that you implement and somebody's trying to work out ROI in 18 months time or 2 years. This is immediately now. So it is in excess of 90%. It'll keep going up the more and more it's used. The other thing is when we implement this to the client continues to train it to the whatever they want. So if regulations change, or if their internal approach to whatever, it might be selling a product, or their risks change, or their controls change, they themselves can actually do that themselves. They don't need us to come in. So it's not hard coded. It's they simply tell the system, this has changed, our approach has changed. And so the accuracy level in the first 8 to 12 weeks is in excess of 90%, and it'll continue to rise.
Sure. The next question is, do you offer APIs as well for integrating with RPA instead of UI interface?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yeah, we work in a number of different ways, really. I mean, our system can be connected through open APIs to any other existing technologies or existing solutions. And this is important because we're not asking the client or partners to change anything that they've got. So the relationship that we have with Blue Prism is a classic example of that, which is we're sort of linking in Blue Prism's existing solutions with ours to provide an end-to-end solution. So if we weren't working with Blue Prism and we're working directly with the client, the last thing we want to say to your client is, you've invested millions in RPA or digital automation at the front end, or you bought in sort of data sources. We want you to change all that and come to us. That is not required at all.
Sure. Another question is that I could not see the demos. Is it possible to get a copy of these demos?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. We can send you the links to that.
Sure. Last question. Would there be scope for using the software for specific affected by COVID-19, such as medical and educational companies?
Look, in terms of the use cases that the system can be trained to is limitless. I think what we'll do is the simple answer, yes. The more complex answer is we will then work with you to understand what is it that you want the system to do, and the use case, and what that would mean in terms of developing the system to do that and training the system to do that. But there isn't a use case that the system can't do. So it's not limited to a particular sector or a particular use case. It can be trained into whatever you want. So whether it's in the pharma, medical sector, or as I said, oil and gas, or the government sector, whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Great. And that's all for the questions and answers for now. And thank you for attending this session. We'd like to thank everyone for coming on, and we look forward to serving you again with our next session.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you for inviting us on. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.